I get an amen in the house? Come Sunday stars Chiwetel Ejiofor and Martin Sheen and is directed by Joshua Marston. Based on true events, a Pentecostal preacher by the name of Carlton Pearson becomes convinced that there is no hell after hearing from God, and then he becomes an outcast from his own church. I think a really important distinction to make with this film is that I don't believe that it is a Christian film for a few different reasons. One, it's well acted. Two, it's well written. And three, its message is not heavy-handed.
Where are they? Where did they go?
To heaven.
You can call it an unfair generalization if you must, but I actually feel that a lot of Christian films do fall into this trap and don't really follow these guidelines, even though their heart may be in the right place for what they're trying to achieve with their film. Come Sunday doesn't really follow any of these tropes at all. It has Christian people in it. It has Christian themes, and it has a sermon or two, but it's not trying to get you saved, okay? It's actually exploring something far more unique, and that is what would happen to a pastor if he lost his church. And that's a really interesting angle. I'm really convinced that Marcus Hitchley regularly attends church services, or at least did for a while, to really capture the unique culture that is church life. As the film opens and we see Carlton preaching in a Sunday morning church service, and he says, "Turn to the person next to you and say, 'We are still here,' and then the congregation do it," I was immediately taken back to my days being in a Pentecostal church service on a Sunday. It's just so well written, and it really captures church life accurately. What's really interesting, and something we don't see in movies quite often, and also quite impressive, is just how Hitchley and Marston are able to accurately portray what happens in church life off the pulpit as well as on the pulpit as well. Carlton's dealings with other church leaders, the senior pastors like Martin Sheen, for example. But my absolute favourites are Carlton's life at home with Gina, played by Condola Rashad, in a very underrated performance. In fact, speaking of the cast, if there's one reason to really check out Come Sunday, it would be for this wonderful cast we have assembled here. Chiwetel has always been an actor that I've enjoyed seeing on screen. I think he's an excellent actor, and playing Carlton Pearson may just be one of his most impressive performances to date. Here he's really able to capture Carlton as a very outgoing person in church life. He's very passionate about God, he's very passionate about serving the congregation, serving the church elders, and really pleasing everybody. But he's also a very humble man when it comes to his home life, and that's also just as compelling here. In fact, there's a brilliant scene early in the movie where Carlton is just exhausted, sitting on the couch watching TV, and there's a quick exchange with his wife Gina, and it's a brilliant shot, and it really becomes obvious early on that Come Sunday is really interested in exploring this man fully. Martin Sheen is also great as Pastor Roberts, and he's really like a father figure to Carlton in his career as a pastor, and he's also really a spokesperson for the system of the Pentecostal movement and for how they do church life and for the things that they teach, as well as his longtime friend Henry, played by Jason Segel. And when Carlton starts to preach things that are not exactly church service friendly, it provides some really interesting scenes between the three of them. Cinematographer Peter Flickenberg's work is really on point here. I absolutely adored the cinematography in this film. I love how well lit and bright everything is when the film first opened, and we're introduced to Carlton in his element as a Pentecostal preacher. And as the film progresses and moves on, the shots get darker, and the color grading also gets more desaturated to match that as Carlton begins to wrestle with his new beliefs. Guys, I should stress this again, I don't believe Come Sunday is a Christian movie. It doesn't really follow those particular tropes that we see often associated with these types of films quite often. This movie is really just about people standing up for what they believe in, no matter what people around them may be saying. And churchgoers that may be a little bit worried about how the church is presented here in possibly a negative light, I don't think you should be too worried about that. I don't believe Come Sunday presents church as a negative thing, and I don't believe Come Sunday presents church as a positive thing. What it really centers on here is real life people dealing with conflict. And that's always going to be a compelling story. And it doesn't matter whether you're a person of faith or not. I think Come Sunday has something for everybody. I'm going to give Come Sunday 4 stars.
I've never been more sure of anything in my life. And I'm not backing down.
That's my
Guys, if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to flick a like and subscribe. And remember, a weekend watching movies is a weekend well spent. Thanks heaps for watching.